My name is Reuben. I'm 35 years old, and if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you that family was everything to me. I'm not talking about the distant, send a Christmas card kind of family. I mean the kind of family that has group chats blowing up at 2 a.m., weekend cookouts every month, shared Netflix passwords, and pooled money for emergencies. We were tight, or at least that's what I thought. I was the oldest of 9 cousins. The responsible one, they'd say. After our grandfather passed, I was the one who stepped up, helped my uncle organize the trust, managed the spreadsheets when my aunt couldn't figure out her budgeting app, took care of Nana's prescriptions. I even co-signed on the house my parents live in now, the house they always swore would stay in the family. They all treated me like the go-to guy. Need a car? Reuben will co-sign. Behind on tuition? Ask Reuben. Medical emergency? Text Reuben at midnight. And for a long time, I didn't mind. I had a good job in finance. I didn't have kids, and I figured helping my family was just what people did when they could. But it wasn't just help they wanted, it was access. Access to my time, my money, my patience. Every month, it became something new. One cousin accidentally overdrew the shared vacation fund. My sister used the credit card linked to the trust account to buy a $1,700 espresso machine because she needed a morning routine that worked. My mom guilt-tripped me into covering the backyard renovation because Dad's knees couldn't handle stairs anymore, and they needed a patio-level entrance. And I agreed. Every time. Quietly. I just added it to the spreadsheet and told myself it was temporary. But then things started shifting. It started with silence. Group chats without my name tagged. Birthday invites where I was the afterthought. Oh, didn't we tell you? It's next week. I brushed it off. People get busy. Then I noticed they were meeting up without me. Sunday brunches, mini vacations. At first I assumed they just forgot. But then I found out there was a whole separate group chat, without me in it. A cousin slipped up and mentioned something about family core, and when I asked what that was, she got quiet. I eventually cornered my brother, Noah, and asked him outright. He looked uncomfortable and said, it's been nice having a space without pressure, you know? No spreadsheets, no financial check-ins, just family stuff. That one stung. They didn't say it out loud, but it was clear. I wasn't family. I was a wallet, a walking to-do list, the reliable workhorse who had gotten exhausting. And apparently, when I asked too many questions, when I double-checked the numbers or asked why the electric bill was 3 months late, it killed the vibe. Still, I didn't say anything. I stayed quiet until the night my aunt held a small dinner that turned out to be a surprise party for my cousin Danny. There were 40 people there, a catered buffet, a live band, and when I arrived, because I had been invited, there was no chair for me. Literally, no chair. I stood awkwardly by the kitchen for a while before Danny waved vaguely toward the back and said, "There's a stool somewhere by the laundry area." I sat by the door, alone. I watched them toast with champagne that I had unknowingly paid for through the trust's celebration fund. No one even asked how I was. That night, when I got home, I stared at the budget file I'd maintained for 4 years. All the columns, all the color-coded tabs, all the automatic transfers I'd set up, rent subsidies, grocery fund, college savings. I stared at the shared account, the one I had admin rights over. And I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel betrayed. I felt numb. The next day, I sent a message to the group. Hey everyone, I've been thinking about what Noah said, that maybe it's time I take a break from the family. I think that's a good idea. So I'm stepping back for a while. Don't worry, I'll keep things running smoothly in the meantime. I kept it vague, neutral. Then I got to work. I canceled every recurring payment tied to my personal accounts. I froze the shared trust fund until further notice, citing a review of recent activity. I contacted the lawyer who managed the trust and asked to formally remove myself from active duties and reassign decision-making to the next trustee in line, which happened to be my cousin Callum, a man who once sent $300 to a fake investment group on Instagram. I also withdrew my name from the emergency funds authorization list. Lastly, and this was the kicker, I notified the mortgage company that I was removing my financial power of attorney over the house my parents lived in. Legally, the house was in my name. Had been since the refinancing 5 years ago. I'd just never told them. No one had asked. At 4 a.m. the next morning, I got a text from my cousin Lexi. Hey, is something wrong with the account? Nothing's going through. Callum can't log in either. 10 minutes later. Reuben, what's going on? Then, Why can't we access anything? I stared at the screen, then typed. I thought you all wanted space. The phone didn't stop buzzing that day. Missed calls, angry voicemails, a message from my mom that just read, "This isn't funny, Reuben. What's happening?" My sister wrote, "This affects all of us. You can't just go rogue." I didn't respond. I just went into work, made my coffee, and opened a new spreadsheet, one with no family names on it. That would have been enough. That would have made the point. But life had other plans. A week later, my uncle called a family meeting. I didn't go, but apparently, in the middle of trying to sort out who had access to what and who owed whom, someone, probably Callum, brought up the house. He said something like, "Well, at least mom and dad's place is safe." That's when the lawyer, who'd been CC'd on one too many panic emails, clarified that the title was not, in fact, in their name. That it never had been. That the sole name on the deed was mine. And that's when everything unraveled. I didn't hear it firsthand, but according to my cousin Olivia, the only one still speaking to me at that point, the room went silent. Like actual, pin drop, no babies crying silent. Then my dad apparently asked the lawyer to repeat himself, thinking maybe he misheard. He hadn't. The lawyer calmly explained that 5 years ago, during a refinancing situation caused by some missed payments, I'd stepped in to cover the loan and consolidate the remaining debt. At the time, we had all agreed that I'd be added to the deed temporarily until things stabilized. Only, nothing ever got stabilized. No one followed up. No one paid the property taxes. I did, quietly, year after year. And with no challenge or repayment plan filed, the house stayed under my name, fully and legally. When Olivia texted me later that night, she said my mom looked like she'd been slapped. My dad didn't say anything at all. My sister started crying and blamed miscommunication, but Callum apparently said, "Honestly, it makes sense. He always did everything. We just got comfortable." That was the first honest thing he said in years. I hadn't planned to weaponize the house. I really hadn't. I just wanted to protect myself. But when I heard how it unfolded, the dawning realization that they had taken and taken and taken without ever asking what the cost was, I'll admit, there was a part of me that felt vindicated. And then came the calls. Dozens. From every direction. My mom's was first. "Reuben, honey, we need to talk. I think this has gone too far." I didn't answer. My sister followed. "You made your point, okay? Everyone's freaking out. Can we please just go back to normal?" Normal? What did that even mean anymore? Then came the group chat. The original one, the one I hadn't been a part of in months. Suddenly, I was added back in. A swarm of gray message bubbles flooded in. "Reuben, we miss you. Let's fix this. You didn't deserve to feel pushed out." And finally, a voice note from my dad, a man who hadn't apologized to me since I was 16. He said, "Son, I didn't realize how far we drifted. I'm sorry. Truly. Come home. Let's talk." But that wasn't what shook me. What shook me was what Olivia told me the next day. That after the meeting, once everyone left, my mom stayed behind, alone, and asked the lawyer, "Is there any way we can change the name on the deed?" Without him knowing. The lawyer, bless his tired, overworked soul, told her flatly, "Only if he dies." That's when I knew they still didn't get it. It wasn't about the money, or the title, or the payments. It was about the choice. I had given and given without being asked. I had offered myself up as the safety net for people who treated me like a background app, always running, always available, but invisible. And now that I'd stopped, now I was a problem to solve, a lock to pick, a barrier in the way of their comfort. I didn't respond to the messages. I didn't show up to the next dinner. When my mom sent a photo of the porch she'd decorated for fall, I didn't reply. And when my dad texted, "You're still my son," I read it once, then archived it. Because something had changed. Something in me. And I wasn't sure if there was a way back. Not this time. The final straw came 3 days later. I was leaving work late, walking through the underground garage, when I saw someone sitting on the hood of my car. It was Callum. He looked like he hadn't slept. "I just wanted to talk," he said, hopping off the hood. Face to face. I paused. About what? He shifted awkwardly. About everything. About how we handled things. About the house. I leaned against the pillar, arms crossed. "Go on." He ran a hand through his hair. "We messed up, man. All of us. We treated you like an ATM. A fixer. And when you stopped, we panicked. I stayed quiet. And now they're scared. Everyone's scared, he added, because you've got more power than we realized. I gave a humorless laugh. I always did. You just didn't care until it stopped benefiting you. He didn't argue. I'm not here to beg, he said after a long pause. I just thought you should know. They're planning something. I narrowed my eyes. What kind of something? Callum hesitated. They're trying to meet with another lawyer. One of Aunt Karen's friends. They want to dispute the deed, claim undue influence, or some nonsense like that. I felt something shift in my stomach, not fear. Something colder. They're going to say you manipulated them, he said quietly. That you took control while they were vulnerable. I stared at him, jaw tight. And when are they planning to do this? I asked. He looked down. Next week. Thursday. I nodded once. Thanks. Then I got in my car and drove off. Heart steady, mind already racing. Because if they wanted a legal war, they had no idea what was coming. The drive home was silent. No music. No podcasts. Just the low hum of the engine and the echo of Callum's words bouncing around in my head. They're planning to say you manipulated them. It wasn't just laughable, it was insulting. After everything I'd done for them, quietly, without thanks, they had the audacity to paint me as the villain? But the longer I sat with it, the more I realized something darker. This wasn't about fairness. It never had been. This was about control. For the first time, I had wrestled it back, and they didn't know what to do with that. So they were trying to rewrite the story. If they couldn't undo my actions, they'd discredit my character. Make me the unstable one, the greedy one, the outsider who used the family's love against them. And I knew exactly how this would play out in their minds. If they said it enough, it would become true. Maybe not to the courts, but to themselves. And that was enough for them. I got home and opened the fireproof safe under my bed, something I hadn't touched in years. Inside were neatly labeled folders, copies of every transfer, every wire, every invoice I'd ever covered. Photocopies of the refinancing documents, notarized statements showing I'd taken on the debt voluntarily, not through coercion. Emails from my parents thanking me, in writing. Screenshots of group chats where they begged me to step in. I'd kept it all, not out of paranoia. Back then, I thought I was just being organized. Now I realized. I had built my own shield without even knowing. I spent the next 2 nights assembling everything. Scanned it. Backed it up 3 different ways. Cloud, USB, hard drive. I even printed a condensed timeline, in case I ever needed to hand it to a lawyer on the spot. I didn't want revenge. I wanted insurance. And then I started digging deeper. I pulled the trust documents and reviewed the bylaws. There it was, Clause 7.2.3. In the event of trustee resignation, successor must be confirmed by original trustee or estate executor. That meant Callum couldn't legally act without my approval. And since the executor had passed last year, that power reverted back to me. They had been operating under a lie. The entire family emergency meeting they'd held without me? Legally, it was nothing more than brunch with some overcooked opinions. So I made a call. Not to them. To Mr. Niven, a soft-spoken estate lawyer I'd met during Grandpa's probate. The man was semi-retired and took his time with everything. But when I explained what was happening, he listened closely. "Send me what you've got," he said. "I'll take a look." I did. The next day, he called me back. "Reuben," he said slowly, "you have a stronger position than you think. They'd be fools to take this to court. But I know families. Pride clouds judgment. So what do I do?" I asked. He hesitated. "You wait. Wait." He exhaled. "Yes. Let them act first. Let them think they've made the first move. Then respond. Not with anger. With clarity. Paper trails. Facts. Timing." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "They want drama," he said. "You give them documentation." And so I waited. The messages became more frequent. Passive-aggressive texts from my sister. "Hope you're proud of what you're doing. Dad hasn't slept in days." Weird check-in messages from my mom, like she wanted to be seen reaching out. "Just thinking of you. Hope work's okay." Even a voice message from my aunt. Her tone syrupy sweet. "We're all just hoping to move past this silly confusion, dear." But no one apologized. Not once. And then Thursday came. I was in the middle of a meeting when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 minutes later, another buzz. This time, a long email chain forwarded to me by Olivia, with the subject, Urgent, trust dispute filing, draft pending approval. I scrolled. There it was. A draft letter addressed to a new lawyer. one affiliated with Aunt Karen's real estate group. It outlined a formal request to reevaluate asset control of the family trust and the property deed, citing concerns over unilateral decision-making, mismanagement, and undue influence exerted over elderly family members. I sat still for a moment, reading it again. Then again, they really went through with it. No call, no sit down, just a cowardly email behind my back, hoping the system would be too complicated for me to fight. They wanted war? Fine. I opened a new folder on my desktop and titled it, Response, Timeline of Support and Legal Ownership for Disclosure. Then I dialed Mr. Niven. They filed, I said simply. His voice didn't waver. Good. Now we respond. But before I could even begin drafting the first reply, my phone buzzed again. A message from Callum. I didn't agree to any of this. They cut me out. Said I wasn't moving fast enough. I'm sorry, Reuben, but you need to see this. He sent a screenshot. It was a text thread between my mom and Aunt Karen. And one message stood out in bold, cold letters. If Reuben wants to act like a stranger, let him feel what that really means. We'll find a way to take it all back. No more begging. We raised him. We own this. My heart slowed. Owned. The next steps became clear, methodical, tactical. This wasn't about protecting myself anymore. This was about setting boundaries and making sure they could never cross them again. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun in slow, lazy circles above me, like it had all the time in the world. I didn't. The moment I read that message, we raised him, we own this, something inside me hardened. There was no more uncertainty, no room for guilt. I'd been clinging to the hope that maybe, just maybe, this was a misunderstanding. A messy, emotional breakdown that could be fixed with time and honesty. But no, this wasn't confusion. It was betrayal. Calculated, deliberate betrayal. They didn't just want to take back what I had willingly given. They wanted to erase me from it. Rewrite history so that I had never helped, never supported, never sacrificed. I wasn't their family anymore. I was their obstacle. So I got up, made coffee at 3 a.m., and sat at my desk in the dark with just the blue glow of my monitor lighting the room. I spent the next 8 hours organizing everything. Emails, wire transfers, receipts, notarized documents, correspondence with the trust lawyer. I created a bulletproof timeline, not just of what I'd done financially, but how I had been asked to do it. Pleaded with. I attached PDFs of texts from my mom. Reuben, we need you again. It's just this once. My dad. You're the only one we can trust with this. I even included the emails from their latest attempt to remove me. At 11 a.m. sharp, I walked into Mr. Niven's office with a flash drive in one hand and a printed binder in the other. He smiled when he saw me. You look like a man who's made up his mind. I have, I said. Let's make it formal. He glanced at the binder and nodded. Good, because I've been working on a response. What followed over the next week was a meticulous takedown. Not loud or flashy, but precise. Professional. We drafted a legal reply to the trust dispute, complete with evidence of my history of support and documentation confirming the legality of the deed. We filed an affidavit declaring my resignation as trustee null and void due to misrepresentation by the successor, namely, that they had not acted in good faith or with transparency. And then we added the clause. That beautiful, quiet clause. A formal cease and desist order, barring all named family members from attempting further legal actions involving the trust or property unless they had majority beneficiary approval, which, as it turned out, I still held. I didn't send it to them myself. Mr. Niven did, with copies to their new lawyer and the family group email. The subject line was simple, ownership and trustee position, final response. I heard nothing for 2 days. Then the dam burst. First, a flurry of texts from my mom. Reuben, please call me. We need to talk. This has gotten out of hand. Why are you doing this? We're family. Then my dad tried. Son, I don't understand. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. We just wanted clarity. Clarity? No. What they wanted was a way to wrest control without admitting fault, without facing what they'd done. They wanted to punish me for stepping away, for no longer being the dependable ghost that paid for everything without asking for a seat at the table. And when that failed, they tried fear. My sister called, left a voicemail where her voice cracked halfway through. You've embarrassed us. Everyone knows. The aunts, the neighbors, even Uncle Theo called me. How could you air this out so publicly? I didn't respond. Not at first, because I had one more move left. One that had been building in the back of my mind since that stool by the laundry moment at the dinner party. You see, I didn't just co-sign the mortgage for my parents' house. I owned it. Fully. Legally. And after everything they had done, the betrayal, the attempted legal ambush, the text saying they owned me, I decided to take one last step. Not out of spite. Out of closure. I had the property reassessed, and then I contacted a local real estate agency. They sent a representative out that weekend. And when my parents weren't home, they were at a weekend retreat with Aunt Karen and the rest of the family. I put the house up for sale. Legally, I didn't need their permission. I was the sole name on the deed. The agency handled everything discreetly. Photos were taken. A listing was prepared but kept private for the first week, only circulated to high-profile buyers in the area. I made sure of one thing, that it would sell quickly. And then, after the paperwork was prepped, I sent a letter to my parents. Not a text, not an email, a formal letter. Signed, dated. It read, effective immediately, the property located at address has been listed for sale. As the legal owner, I have exercised my full right to do so. I will provide a reasonable timeline for you to find alternative living arrangements and will cover your moving expenses up to $5,000. This is not punishment. It's the final boundary I need to set. They didn't respond. Instead, the next day, my mom showed up at my apartment. I didn't answer the door. She stood there for 20 minutes. I watched her through the peephole, clutching the letter in one hand, her other hand trembling. Eventually, she left. 2 weeks later, the house was sold. Cash buyer. No conditions. I gave my parents a 60-day notice. I even offered to help them find a rental unit in their area. But I made it clear I would not be co-signing. I would not be paying. I would not be involved. If they wanted support, they could turn to the rest of the family. After all, they had said they wanted me to take a break. So I did. The aftermath rippled for months. The family group chat imploded. Everyone turned on each other, accusing, blaming, scrambling to figure out how they had let it get this far. Aunt Karen sent me a scathing email calling me heartless and vindictive. I didn't respond. Callum, to his credit, apologized again. In person. We had coffee once, and only once. He admitted he'd been a coward, that he had seen the shift years ago, and hadn't said a word because he was scared to lose his seat at the table. I told him I understood, but I didn't invite him back in. I didn't invite anyone back in. I moved apartments 6 months later, found a smaller place with better light, closer to my office. I changed my number, closed the shared accounts, took a new job in a different city, a promotion, one I'd turned down before because I didn't want to be far from family. Now, I don't just sleep better. I live better. No guilt. No weight on my shoulders. No waiting for the next phone call, the next ask, the next, it's just this once. I see now how long I'd been carrying something that was never mine to hold. How they let me believe I was needed, when really, I was being used. There's peace in the silence. And sometimes, silence is louder than any apology. I haven't heard from most of them since. But last week, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just one line inside. You've made your point. We were wrong. No name. No signature. Just that. I didn't need to know who sent it. Because whoever it was, they finally understood. I'm not their safety net anymore. I'm not their wallet. I'm not their punching bag when things get hard. I'm just Reuben. And that's more than enough.